Oh, there we go. Okay, perfect. All right, I believe I am presenting today, so I will share my screen here. Okay. So we'll do 9 and 10. So 9 is the standard JavaScript event, which I'm sure we're fairly familiar with, because a lot of us have already used for other things. But the most common are on click, on mouse over, on mouse out, on key down, and on load. So I decided to do 2 examples here of the most common that I've run into, which is the on click and on mouse over. And then there is always the hover capability in your CSS that applies to links. But with the on mouse over, you can apply that to other things as well. So here's my HTML code. I tried to keep it really simple. So just on the mouse over, it's going to run my mouse function. So I have over here in my JavaScript, my mouse function down here. It's just going to toggle my class list in my CSS so that it can change the color. So my mouse over switches it from having a blue background and white text to a black background. Okay. And then on click, we identified here using a button, and the event type is on click. It's going to run my clicky function, which is here in the JavaScript, which is just going to toggle my hide and unhide of my mouse. Okay. Cool. So I'm going to switch here to on a device. So that makes it really hard to see. Yeah, I don't know if I can make that bigger. We'll do it on the iPad. That's going to give us a little more space. Okay, so basically on my mobile event, we have touch start, touch move, touch end, touch enter, touch leave, and touch cancel. So some of the devices will automatically, or browsers will automatically have things assigned to those. That's going to be all your navigation. So, you know, your touch start and touch end is how you identify like a swipe to the left or the right or up or down. And the default on those is to, you know, move your screen. But you can change those. So when we use a touch event, we also have to have like an event listener. So the event listener listens for the touch event to happen. And the way we write that is some element, add event listener, touch start, and then we process whatever the touch start is. So here's my code for that, and I'll zoom back in, but I'll show you when I click here. So it triggers this touch event. And I have listed my X and Y position for that. So you can see as I touch throughout the area, it changes what the X and Y position is of my touch. So one thing about the touch events is that there's a lot of information we get from like a single touch beyond just like the X position and the Y position. But the X position and the Y position is how you would do a lot of like the touch movements. So like if you were drawing with your finger or moving things around on your device, you do that with you can do that with identifying different X and Y positions. So let me close this so you guys can see that. Here. So I just have my, this is my JavaScript. So I have, it's going to listen to the whole body of my page for any touch. My event listener is listening for a touch function for for a touch start. So I could identify like a touch start or touch end. So it could do something different if I held my touch for 2 seconds or 3 seconds or half a second or a double touch, or I mean, there's a lot of options there. But for this particular code, whenever I have a touch and it changes the touches, so this is my event. So my function is touch function, so it's my event listed here. So then I set my variable touch to my event change touches and my variable I, so that each time it changes a touch, it will log what the X and the Y is, and then I have the current X and Y touch position out, set out here. So you could track those with each different touch identifying, you touch here first and then here and then here and then here. But I just have it displaying the most recent event. So does anybody have any questions on these JavaScript events?
I don't think so. I think so. Wait, on touch. So touch end is when the touch is let go.
Yes. So it's when the user removes the touch point from the surface.
Oh, okay. And touch.
So it's
Touch enter touch.
So the touch start is when the touch first occurs to the surface, when it registers that it was touched. The touched move has to do with as it moves across the point of the touch surface, and touch end is when the touch is removed. So when you move your finger. The touch enter would be like that one I feel like is the most similar to like a click. So when it enters like an area. So like when you touch inside a given area, or if you are touching outside a given area, you can have it do certain things. So like if you were using your finger to color on a drawing window and your finger moved outside the drawing window, then you could say, pop up an alert saying, oh no, you're outside the drawing window.
Wow.
Yeah, okay.
Back in the drawing window, then it's, the touch has now entered the drawing window, and it can run your code to mark the page with whatever. And then,
What do you mean by this event does not bubble?
I am not 100% sure. Okay. I think it has to do with the way that it affects other events, but I pulled these descriptions from JavaScriptKit.com, which I felt like had the most concise. A lot of the pages that I referenced as I was pulling this together got like almost unnecessarily technical. Okay. I feel like very specific to this is how you use touch when you're programming games, and this is how you use touch when you're programming this or that or whatever. And so this was the most generic, but so I'm not 100% sure on that.
That's something for me to find out what that means. Oh, that's cool.
All right. Any other questions on this?
That's cool.
Okay.
No, it seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's not too bad. So lesson 10 was how to embed the video, audio, and canvas with the HTML5 tags. And so this is something cool that's new to HTML5. In the older HTML versions, you'd have to add like a media player or something else. But now you can embed it directly, and it's really easy. So for the video, you just use a video tag. And then you specify like the width and the height of the viewing window. And then you can decide if you want there to be controls or not. So the controls, just listing controls here, gives the user all of these controls down here, which is nice. And then you just reference your source, and then what type of video format it is. So the embedded HTML5 tag for video supports MP4, WebM and OGG. And if you were to list multiple file types and sources, it will play whichever is the first source it can support. So the support on these is MP4, I think, was supported across everything. I think OGG was more supported on Opera and less on like Safari. And so if you were doing something that had to be in one of those, you may want to specify other file types. But then you can see we just have our little, this is my little LDS.org video that I've embedded here using this code. And then you just end with the closing video tag. So you could list multiple sources inside the video tag here. You could probably set your height and width to be more dynamic using your CSS or whatever. But okay, so audio works essentially the same way using the audio tag, and audio will only play MP3, WAV, and OGG as the file types. And again, we have the controls option. And then I listed my source, and then you have to list your type. So it's an audio MP3 file type, and then close my audio tag. So, and then it gives us the controls to play this fabulous free piano music thing I found. Okay, and then Canvas is fun. Canvas is used to draw graphics on the web page using JavaScript. And so you can add Canvas easily using the Canvas tag. And then you do have to reference it back to like a JavaScript. So here's like our Canvas. This is the embedded in the HTML5. So we have Canvas. My ID is Canvas example. Here's the width and height of my Canvas window. And then here's the style for my drawing. So when I click this button, it's going to draw an X, see here on Canvas. So this is running my JavaScript function. You could set up a function to draw a line based on the XY coordinates of the mouse when it's clicked, but yeah, I didn't do that. So let me show you really quick what the JavaScript looks like for that, but it's pretty. Okay, so here's my JavaScript. So this is for my function draw. So that when I click on my X here, it's going to run this draw function. And so I set my Canvas variable to right here, my Canvas example, which is what I set as my ID over here. And then the context for Canvas.get the context is 2D. So you can draw in 2D, which is the most common. And then I have set my XY coordinates of where I want my line to move. So here's my we're at the starting position, so I want it to move to 25 by 25 within the canvas, and then I'm going to draw a line to, and here's the ending coordinates, 200 by 150, and then I'm going to pick up and move to 175 by 25, and then I'm going to draw my line back to 25 over 50. So the move to seems like it would be where you're moving your pen, but if you were to think about it as if you were drawing on an actual page, you're going to pick up your pen and you're going to move it to this position, and then you're going to draw the line to the next position. But there's a bunch of different functions built into Canvas to draw shapes, and you can just identify where you want the shape to start and end, and it will automatically do your rectangles or your ellipses or your circles or whatever. You can identify the mathematical formulas for those shapes. And then the most important thing is that if you have to identify a stroke style in Canvas. So this is my color, and then you tell it to do the stroke. So if you don't have these last two lines, then it'll move in Canvas, you just won't see it. So anyway, I didn't put this code in the example because we're supposed to be focusing on the HTML5. But if you're unfamiliar with Canvas, here's how that works. Any questions?
Oh, that's cool.
No, I'll have to try
Hi
it.
guys.
I haven't.
Hey, Ricardo.
Hi, Ricardo.
Hi. Hi.
Ricardo, sorry we started without you.
Yeah. Hi, Ellie.
Well, look, if you guys are keen, I can finish off my two, that 12 and 13, to do with, I think it's transformations and animation. With CSS, so the last two topics that we need to cover.
Yeah.
Guys keen to
Yeah,
have
that
a
would
go?
be great.
Yeah, and then we can then see what Brother Bayer is going to give us this week to get going with our app or whatever that needs to be. So, look, if you're keen, let's start, huh? I'll share my screen. Okay, we go here. Let me share first. I have to get this out. I wonder if that does that. No, that's not going to help me. I'm just going to share the entire screen for the time being. And can you see that at all?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to run this. You guys see that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. This is designing, defining, and triggering CSS3 transforms with our custom libraries. So the transform I'm going to use here is going to be rotate and also a translate. So the rotate's pretty straightforward. You just do a rotation of the object, and the translate is just moving from one position to another. I guess that's what I'm going to see. So I'm going to move this object from the top 0 pixel. So how they do this is 0 pixels from the left. So it's from the top really, and from the left, and from top 200 pixels, and from left 200 pixels. So it's going to go across 200 pixels. That's the left, and from the top down 200 pixels. So this is the transform. It's set to have a 2.5 second delay. So it's also got the transition in there. So there's a transition from magenta to blue, and also the size of the box transitions and the size of the text transitions. So here's my code. So to trigger these, ideally I wouldn't want to trigger them like this, I guess, but yeah. But I've set an interval of 2.5 seconds. Here, a transform runs a transform function, which is here. It actually uses two boxes, two separate boxes to do that. It looks at the class name, and if it looks in the div.box, and if it sees that the class name is box1, it'll change it to box, and vice versa. And this is the let me see, down here, we see the transform. So I set the first box to width and height of 100 pixels, and the second box width and height to 50 pixels. So it transforms, it transitions to this size. But you notice that, and you might recall, Ali, I think last week when you talked about transition properties, you had multiple differences, but this is a shortcut of that. Width, height, background color, font size, left, top. They're all, there's a shortcut, so you don't, it's just going to use these width and height here, and then do a transform and also color. And it'll take 2 seconds to, oh, it's actually 2.5 seconds to do this. All right. There's a couple of things you can do. You've got ease in and out, and you shared that with us with your transition last week. But there's that shortcut of having those multiple things. The same thing here. Any questions on this one?
No.
No, okay.
Looks cool.
Yeah. So it just does a 270 degrees rotation, and you put that inside the transform rotate to 70 degrees. So I guess you can make it let me see, where's that in? It's in the style sheet, eh? Style. Oh, that looks like too hard to find. Don't. X. So okay, that's an earlier one, eh? What do we call this one here? Dot box, 100 pixels. Dot box 3. I'm not quite sure how I put, oh, here's a rotate here. So we make that 360 degrees. Run that transform. There. See, it does a 360 degrees rotate. Now the cool is up there. Okay, here's another one here. This is a mouse over transform. Transform is really only a translate. It does 720 degrees, and it uses ease in, and it rotates 720 degrees. So it starts off reasonably quickly, and then when it eases out, it goes pretty slowly. So that's a 10-second transform. Oh, sorry. You're right with this. That's nice. And this mostly, this is all CSS.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay. So it does a border radius. I like this idea. Changing a square into a circle. I like that. And so it's a transform. It translates at 300 pixels to the right and rotates 720 degrees. And it does that in 10 seconds. This one here is a 3D rotate. Here, just a matter of.
Whoa, that's cool.
Yeah, little mesmerizing.
Yeah.
So the way I achieve this, it's got probably 2 boxes again. I call them, one is child and one is child 2. The child 2 it's sitting in this state here, which is Otherwise, I'd have to get it to. Otherwise, it would start rotating without that. So I created a dummy, that box there, the first box. Gosh, which is child 2. It just shows you a box sitting in absolute position 0, 0, just a white box, and with the text inside it here. The second box will be as it's rotating, and this is a pretty important part of this. You have to write this perspective in here for the container. The container is the blue box outside and the internal blue. And you go rotating, you see the internal blue, light sky blue. That's the container. To keep perspective, you can adjust this perspective. Where are we? What am I going to look for? Container. Okay, so if you had this perspective can be adjusted to, let's try that. See what happens. You'll see as it rotates. Oh, hang on, is that the right one? Have I done the right one? One moment. Why do you have to do it? Oh. Oh, see, look, it's lost perspective. It's not, it's just, it stays inside the bounds of that. That's the higher the perspective, the less. So we go to 200 pixels. Can you see that at all?
Yeah.
That rotates just by adjusting the, found that 800 pixels is the best for this particular situation. So that's that. You can see the still uses keyframes, so animations to do the transform, and does a 360-degree transform. Anyone any questions about this?
No,
No.
I never used these before.
Is that you, Ricardo?
Yeah, that's okay.
Sorry, Jayden. Sorry, Yid.
What's that? No, I don't have any questions. I just need to practice more with these.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Let's go on to animations, eh?
Mm-hmm.
So my first animation is probably, this is probably not what you would do with it, but it's an animation of text where the heading comes from the top, the body of the text comes in from the side. And there's also a button where we've got hover over me. That will end up being a red button with that hover over me text inside it, which has some animation around it too. This is purely, ideally this would be purely CSS. It would probably be a work okay on a landing page or something like that, eh? But I've used JavaScript just to run this using an on-click function on this toggle animation, and you'll see what it does. So, and then it gives me this hover over me button, which we can tutu with.
Oh, nice.
You might have you heard this term tutu? No, it's probably a Kiwi jargon.
What term?
When you play around with it, we call it tutu. Tutu. Tutu.
Tutu?
Yeah, tutu. Yeah.
Tutu?
You shorten the U. So
Tutu.
it's called tutu.
Tutu.
Play around with. Okay. So that's it. And you can see where this is an example. See the distance between the two. When you run the animation, you can actually get them quite a bit closer together. You know, you can sit them wherever you want it to sit. You can make it sit anywhere. The text can sit anywhere. You can justify, center, do everything that you want to do with using CSS, which is pretty good value. So this is my animation. So I've got a couple of things here. My heading, I just aligned them center and did a auto margin on it. Put some padding, 120 pixels, 0 top and bottom, 120 pixels left and right. That just gave that margin on that side and this side here. So there's made the color of the heading green, made it 80 pixels hide. Then, anyone use Flexbox at all?
What box?
Flexbox.
Oh, yeah. They're used in Bootstrap a lot.
Yeah, yes, brilliant. I love Flexbox. I think it's a great product.
Yeah.
Don't have to do any. It's
Makes
so
it
much
easier.
easier to build menus, eh? Because this,
Yeah.
yeah, this is this menu up the top here is a Flexbox menu, and yeah, it's just so easy to use. Here's the button. And using keyframes too. So I set this up so that when you toggle the animation, it takes 5 seconds to get to the final position. And when that happens, we put this hover over me, comes in last. So just using opacity. So it starts off with an opacity of 0, and after 5 seconds, anyone use this forwards at all in the animation
I don't think
film mode?
so.
That's this forwards that lets you go back. See how it sits here? The animation, when you in the forwards mode, it actually takes you back. Doesn't allow you to. I think forwards makes you stop the animation where it finishes rather than go back to where it starts. I think that's what that forward. So you know how this was sitting on top of that, on top of the text. There, forwards make sure that it doesn't go back and to its original HTML how it was. It actually stops the animation in that position. So, and that's about the size of it for that. Okay. Any questions, guys?
No,
No.
looks good.
Yeah.
Nope, looks good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got this animation which I used in my previous one. So it's just using. I thought I was using. It's just a pretty straightforward thing. Using keyframes again, does the transform and translate. Starts at 0 pixels, top left-hand corner, then goes across 200 pixels, then translates X and Y down 200, 200, and so forth. That's pretty straightforward animation. And got another simple animation here too. Thing about animation is that these normally trigger by themselves, you know, with a mouse over or something. But with this, to get this to do this, I ended up creating two, just like I did the previous one, creating two discs. One of them just without any animation on it at all, and the other one doing the animation. So there's nothing much to that. Just the same thing with transform, translate. Starts at 0, 0, 0, and uses an ease in. So you can have these transitions at 0%, then you can have 50 and 60% doing the same things. It looks like it just stops there. Boom. That's at 50, 60%, and that goes to an opacity, and then it heads back in the other way, other direction.
Cool.
Anyone done any sprite sheets?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So I was able to get a sprite sheet. So this is the sprite sheet here, and it's just for 8 animations, different graphs on the same sheet. From what I gathered, with the sprite sheet, well, I made the sprite sheet a little bigger so I could get a bigger animation. The original sheet was 600 pixels by 128 pixels. So I just enlarged it in Photoshop, which made every graphic 120 pixels by 211 pixels. So the size of each sprite was required to ensure that the style sheet was coded correctly. So if we have a look at the style sheet, which is here, we had to make sure that we used a width and a height. So the sprite sheet comes as a PNG. So you in this particular animation, I'll just show you. Maybe we'll start it, and then you can get an idea. So I did a start and a stop, and so it's the style dot animation is equal to walk east 1.7 seconds, and you've got to have steps, 8 steps, because you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 graphics on the PNG in the PNG file. When you get the PNG file and you have a look at it, that's what it looks like this. You've got these 8 images there. Okay, so this is the function to start it. So it looks as this cap guy. I'm just gonna move it down, and it just moves from a 0 to minus 960. Remember earlier I said that I converted it to 960 pixels wide by 211 pixels high.
Yeah.
When you code it, you have to make sure that you put the from at 0 pixels and the background position to has got to be 960 pixels. Now you might notice that it's a minus 960 pixels. The reason is that if you don't make it minus 960 pixels, it will start with this particular graphic first, rather than this one here. I
Oh,
know it's a real mouthful, guys, but there's a whole heap about animations using sprite sheets on the web out there. So if you
yeah.
get a chance, if that's what you're into, and they're great for gamers, I guess, because you
Yeah,
can
that's
make them
cool.
walk across here by changing the position ground. This thing here, you can have him walk by translating him 100% or and that. So, so you can have them walk across the screen, you can have them walk down and to the left, but you'll have to have more graphics here. You know what I mean? You'll have to have graphics of him walking the other way and so forth. So, but
Cool.
yeah, anything else? Oh, look, sorry guys, I know it's a real
Very
thing.
cool.
So, but that's me for tonight.
Very cool.
Sounds good. So now we've had all of our topics presented, right?
Yeah, we've had
Yeah, I think so.
all our tutorials, I guess,
Yeah.
completed.
Now you just have to make sure that everybody gets all their stuff submitted.
Right.
Yeah, I
Right.
want to get
Yeah.
So
all of it
how's
done
everyone
this
going
week.
with that?
I haven't started these topics yet, but I should be all
Okay.
caught up. But I was planning to get everything done this week, but these topics look like they're the hardest almost. But I should be
I
done.
think just
But before week 10, obviously, we are really ahead.
Yeah, we've done good.
Yeah, we'll probably have to start thinking of what we want to do for our project and such.
Yeah, he did mention that, in his weekly sort of how are you guys going?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I need to look at the rubric for it again. I'm not quite. It's been a while since I looked at what exactly it is.
Are we doing it as a group?
I thought so.
Yeah, just it's weird how
Actually, I don't know.
It's weird how he mentioned this because it just sounds like it may be an individual one.
Is it?
Which I'm not. Look, I'm just going to have a look at his comment. Yes, so stay tuned this week, he says, as I'll be posting one or two more announcements with some new content. For today, I just wanted to check up on you all. So I'll be guiding and reviewing. Okay, had to deal with a couple of. It's now time to start introducing you guys to a few things that will help you with the final project work. Oh no, it doesn't tell us that at all. Sorry, I've misinterpreted that.
I guess we don't have to worry about it this week.
Yeah.
For now, we'll just.
Don't worry about it this week. Just get on with your stuff.
So in week 11, it says,
okay.
If you go to the project path for A or B grade, then like in the project application thing, it says now you can start working on your individual project or application. But if you go to week 12, then it says it's a group project. So it sounds kind of like everything we've run into in this course, which is...
Yeah, I guess we'll just wait for instructions and announcements.
Unless we're supposed to each have an individual task to do toward our project.
Yeah, that could be it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we each have a deliverable for the big project, and because it says we got to work with our schedule, and I don't know.
Yeah, so we're ahead of schedule, which is cool.
Yeah, very cool.
So we'll just see what he puts up to us this week, and let's keep in touch, eh?
Yeah,
Okay.
sounds good.
Yes, thanks everyone for letting me do that tonight and boring you to tears.
No,
No, not at all.
I've never used sprites before. I want to try that.
Yeah, I want to do more with sprites too because I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Hey, thanks for your time. We'll
I
catch
thank
you
you.
later, huh?
See
All
you
right,
around.
sounds good.
Bye.
Talk to you later.
Take care,
Bye.
Ricardo.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye.
Cool.
Yeah.
Bye.
See you, Ellie.
Bye. Ricardo, I will post the link to this recorded video in case you needed anything from the beginning.
Okay.
You came in. Okay?
Okay. Thanks.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
See you.